Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we're going to do another checkup on how those Republicans in the majority of the House of Representatives are doing under Speaker Kevin McCarthy, because there was a lot of drama about him being Speaker a couple weeks ago, you might remember. So how's it looking? Let's check in with Republican Congressman Ben Cline of Virginia's 6th Congressional District. I must say, one of the most beautiful districts in the country. You're a lucky man. You get to represent a gorgeous part of the country.
Shenandoah and Roanoke Valleys are the most beautiful part of the country. We're lucky to live there.
Congressman Cline, as I said, there was some concern over Kevin McCarthy, whether he was going to bring the fire and actually stand up for Republicans and Republican voters. I got to tell you, his performance yesterday in defending his decision to hold true to his promise and remove Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell from the Intelligence Committee, that was a moment of real fire from Kevin McCarthy. I'd love for your impression of him so far as the Speaker, and the fact that he went ahead and did that despite criticism from the media and took Adam Schiff and Swalwell off Intel.
Well, so far, Kevin McCarthy has lived up to his commitments and to the arrangements that he committed to with regard to the rules and with regard to Schiff and Swalwell. You know, they are both national security risks. Neither one of them deserves to be on the House Intelligence Committee, and he was right to ensure that they do not continue to pose that national security risk.
It's pretty amazing, actually, that the big challenge from reporters to Speaker McCarthy was, why did you remove Schiff and Swalwell from Intel, when there was virtually no questions of Speaker Pelosi saying, why are you allowing Schiff and Swalwell on the Intel Committee?
You know, it was back when she first put Swalwell on, it wasn't members of Congress who notified her and Swalwell of the risks. It was the FBI that notified McCarthy of the national security risks of Eric Swalwell being on the Intelligence Committee, and he was right to take action, and he is continuing to stand by those commitments that he made to conservatives. As a member of the Freedom Caucus, I'm pleased with the arrangements that were made, and I'm glad that he's sticking to them.
I watched your race in Virginia through my coverage on my radio station, WMAL, here in the Washington area, and I know that spending and debt was a huge part of how you won re-election, Congressman Cline. So given that, now we've got the fight over the debt ceiling. How is this going to resolve itself? Because you know how these things work in Washington. Ultimately, it might end up with a, threat of a government shutdown if neither side budges.
Well, the debt ceiling is an example of your kids overspending on the credit card and then you doing nothing to control spending, but simply raising the limit on the credit card. That's not the way that Congress should be behaving. That's not the way our federal government should be operating. We need to be reasonable when it comes to addressing the debt ceiling, but ask for reasonableness from the administration. They need to come to the table. They need to have a conversation about moving forward, what we can do to rein in wasteful spending, what we can do long term to address the track we're on, which is the track that Greece was on not too many years ago, and it led to fiscal ruin for them.
Will there be resolve within Republican leadership to have this stare down? It's going to happen. Democrats don't want to stop spending ever, and Chuck Schumer certainly doesn't want to. Joe Biden doesn't want to, Congressman Cline. So what happens when, rock meets pitcher and something's going to break?
Well, we are hopeful that they will engage and actually have a conversation with the Speaker. The press secretary has said that the president wants to have Kevin McCarthy to the White House to have that conversation. The Senate is going to do what the Senate's going to do, which is nothing. And we need to be prepared to engage with the president to get the job done for the American people that sets us on the right fiscal path for the future, one that protects this nation's core values long term.
Well, the good news is Joe Biden's been in this town since, the Nixon administration. So I'm sure you'll find some video of him saying, this debt ceiling is out of control. We can't do this anymore. So, maybe we'll be able to use those words against him. You find yourself on the Judiciary Committee. This is going to be an incredibly busy committee this term with Chairman Jim Jordan. There's so much to investigate. There's so much to show oversight to. What are your priorities? What do you want to see get done in the next 2 years?
Well, one of the most important things we need to do is secure our border And so I understand that one of the first hearings we're going to have is a full committee hearing on the border. And so I'm looking forward to that. And we need to go even further. Secretary Mayorkas has abused his authority, ignored the laws, and does need to be impeached. That will come as well. But for now, the Chip Roy bill that I've co-sponsored that makes sure that we codify Title 42 essentially and turn away people at the border if they want to remain in the United States pending their asylum claim, then they need to be detained.
I appreciate that. And you made note on your social media that 38 people on the terrorist watch list have tried to cross the southern border. This gives a hell of a perspective to Secretary Mayorkas saying that the border is secure. You just said he should be impeached. Will that happen through the Judiciary Committee? Will that happen through Homeland Security? How do you see that playing out?
Traditionally, the Judiciary Committee is in charge of impeachments, and so we will hopefully be pursuing hearings to outline just how badly Secretary Mayorkas has abused this authority, the knowledge that he had about the crisis at the border, his willful ignorance of that problem, and we will go from there.
So here's my question, because as you know, listen, I think it's a great idea to codify Title 42, but the fact is, if the head of the executive branch, the president, actually has the will to enforce the laws that are already on the books, you don't even need Title 42. You know that, Congressman Cline. And if Mayorkas' mishandling of the border is enough to impeach him, well, he's just following the policies of the president. Does this then lead to the logical argument that maybe President Biden should be impeached over his mishandling of the border? I mean, it's a basic tenet to protect a country's borders when you're the president.
When Joe Biden took the oath of office, he swore to uphold the laws, and those laws affecting our border have to be enforced. And as we pursue the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas, we will go where the facts lead us. If they lead us to the White House, if they lead us to the West Wing, so be it. But we will follow the facts where they lead us.
With the unfolding classified document scandal that's sort of consuming this city, not just the various locations and various caches of classified documents from President Biden, but now the revelation that former Vice President Pence had some classified documents, and of course the unlawful raid on President Trump's home. What are your national security concerns about all of these classified documents and whether there's any chain of custody? How is it that nobody in D.C. knows who's got classified documents?
You know, there has been a history of an expansion of what is considered to be classified. Intelligence agencies have been expanding their reach, and we need to examine that and tighten that up. And I think that the new subcommittee on judiciary is going to look at our intelligence agencies and what needs to happen there in cooperation with the Intelligence Committee. But we do need to make sure that going forward, after our elected officials leave office, that not only do they not have any documents that are secure, but that we have the ability to keep track of who is visiting them in their personal residences. There is a Secret Service detail that does keep track of who is coming in and out. There are some rules in place by the Secret Service that govern how foiable that is, whether that's foiable. I believe we need to codify some statutes that are related to that and ensure that we can find out who is coming in and out of the president's official residence after he leaves office.
Virginia Representative Ben Cline is going to be a busy man on that Judiciary Committee this term, and hopefully we'll touch base with him quite a bit. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.